There's a famous quote that goes, "The rules which experience suggests are better than those which theorists elaborate in their libraries." Our guest today is someone who is a personification of this very quote. By that I mean he has about 25 plus years of experience under his belt, and he is none other than Mr. Sundar Madakshira, the head of marketing at Adobe Systems. He has been in leadership roles for over 24 years in companies across B2B and B2C, like Hindustan Lever, Wipro, Visa, SAP, Infosys, and more than anything else, he is considered the pioneer in data driven operating models. And that is so exciting for us because data is today the backbone of digital marketing as we know it. I'm so glad that Mr. Sundar has taken the time to be a part of our top of the funnel series today. So let the content conversations begin. Welcome, Sundar.
Yeah, thanks, Natasha, for having me. I would like to believe that whatever we create at the top of the funnel also goes down and gets converted into business opportunity. But really looking forward to this chat show.
Great. So let's start from the very beginning. 25 years of experience as a marketer across B2B, B2C brands like SAP, Hindustan Lever, Visa, Infosys, and now Adobe, I think, for the last 4 years. I would love to know about your journey and how you have seen the evolution of digital and content marketing within it.
Absolutely. So it's been fantastic last 25 years working with some of the best brands. I think working with some of the exceptional marketing minds that existed in each of these organizations, all with very different charter and different ways in which they wanted to reach their customers. That was very different. But I think what they had in common is the huge passion to do their best and make their brand stand out in a cluttered environment. So if I look at it, the role of digital marketing started somewhere around 2011 in my career, about 10 years back, when I used to work with SAP. That is when I think digital platforms started to be counted as something more than engagement platforms, and that's from there to now being the absolute, the cornerstones of what we do in marketing. I think it's been a very, very, very steep rise. I would like to believe. On content marketing, I think it was always the case. I mean, the marketer's biggest value add to their consumers is actually giving them a perspective and helping them make up their mind and delivering the value from that product or service that they're looking at, and ensuring that they're convinced that whatever purchase that they've made of a product is something that remains in their mind. And content marketing is right at the center of that whole piece, that I would say. So content marketing has had a much earlier life, in this world and in my marketing career, maybe since the last 25 years, in fact, from day one to the present day. But digital marketing is something that's evolved, I would say, in the last 10 years.
So if I were to ask you to talk about, how it has been slightly different in the B2C context and the B2B context, would you be able to talk about that? How content is slightly plays a different role in each of these categories?
Absolutely. So B2C, depending on, of course, the product line in the category, we would typically use mass media, right? And B2B is again very, very centered around their finite set of customers. I wouldn't like to say small, but finite. It's finite. But in the case of B2C, it's countably infinite. You can count them, but there's still a lot of them that you would like to reach, of course, depending on what your target audience is. So from that perspective, it is what I see with the B2C world is the difference, the prime difference comes in the channel, the message, and the call to action, which is there. In the case of B2B, for instance, the call to action is much more pronounced. It's very short. The sales cycle in terms of number of steps can be abysmally short, and therefore your interventions are very, very calibrated. They're very, very focused on what you want to achieve, and there's an outcome expected at the end of every marketing intervention. So there's a lot of focus on marketing ROI because number one, the investments can be pretty high, and therefore the returns have to be very proportional. because they're finite, they're easily measurable. So a data platform, a good analysis, an analyzer, an analytics play, platform can help you to track all of these very well, and you can circle it up rather easily. But in the case of B2C, to achieve the same thing, I think a lot more effort has to be put because it's an omni-channel situation. So mass media is the way you want to be good, taking it. But what that does is get you marketing information coming in from multiple sources, and you need a very very robust platform to be able to integrate that and make some sense out of what you're doing, and then plan your future strategy. Very difficult to choose between which is probably more exciting. Both of them, I think, bring in their own sense of ownership, own sense of novelty. And as I say, there's never a dull moment in marketing. So wherever you are, it's something that keeps interesting us every single day.
Now, if we move to specifically talking about, how it works at Adobe, how do you think the role of content is evolved in marketing within your team, at Adobe? Is there something specifically you can talk about also in terms of the campaigns, perhaps?
Absolutely. I think what is happening is because it is possible in today's world to be very, very, personalized, hyper personalized at scale. Right? That's the key shift that's happening right now, and it's taken grounds very well in Adobe. So there's a lot of focus on data, a lot of focus on analysis, and ensuring that the right content goes to the right audience. So the content, if you ask me, has it changed in texture, which is saying that okay, do we use more data, video content? Do we use more text content? Do you hear more audio content? Yes, there is a definite change which is happening there. But once that's created, I think what we want to ensure is that we are talking to the relevant audience at the right time with the right message, right? Let's say we realize that the customer is not aware of our product. So for him to get some content which is advanced in nature will not make sense. So you got to be tailoring your content to the current scenario that the customer is facing. And I can say that we've evolved a lot thanks to the data-driven operating model, DDOM that we call it, which helps us get into scenarios where this can be done, very well. At the extreme of this, however, is the ABM, which is the account-based marketing that we do, which is very, very focused on accounts, a very, very specific buyer group that we are targeting, not an individual, and it's very centered around what we call as large accounts or strategic accounts or transformational accounts. So we're playing a very important role in actually ensuring complete digital transformation of those companies. So content, yes, it's there, but today an advanced approach to this actually helps us to get this content reach out to the right audience at the right time. There will always be content for the mass, which is relevant to a lot of people. And in our case, Adobe's case, we have a lot of agencies, digital marketing agencies, which receive our content. There are a lot of digital marketers who want to upgrade what they are looking at from a data perspective and so on. So it's very interesting. I can very safely say, you mentioned 4 years. In 4 years, I'm very confident that we become much, much more targeted and sharp in our approach to getting to our customers.
So if I were to ask you to summarize maybe the 2 to 3 pillars or philosophies of content as a strategy at Adobe, what would those 2, 3 pillars be?
Yeah. So those pillars clearly would be, if I may say, thought leadership, right? Pieces which engage people at the strategic level, gives them a sense of direction about where they're going, gives our point of view, what do we understand about the vertical or the industry vertical that we are a part of, some views on what are the future roadmap of digital marketing going to be as we see it, and help them make up their mind and build their own vision of the world in the digital world. So that's one broad bucket of content that we have. The other one is more to do with education and enablement, which is to do with telling people and help them answer this question: how do I do this? and how do I get started, or once I've bought a solution, how do I sort of implement it? If I bought the solution and implemented it, what are the things that I should be measuring and by when? How do I need to put a business case for adoption? A lot of people grapple with that question, like how do I show value to my company, and how do I make a business case that's realistic, at the same time something which is visionary in its nature. So this is the broad, if I may say, the second bucket. The third bucket is more to do with engagement, which is a continuous continuous stream of content which keeps coming in, updating them about our roadmaps. What are the new things that we are seeing? What did we learn from another company in the same industry? And which is, and how inspiring it is then to, follow that. Some of the larger challenges like tech challenges, organizational challenges, also governance challenges, compliance challenges, which are very, very specific to countries, specific to industries, and so on. So that helps our customers, be up to date about what's happening in a rather complex world, and we sort of help them understand and get that content which is relevant to them. So these are three broad strategic pillars on which our content strategy is located.
You also mentioned the ROI becoming so important when it comes to B2B. So I would like to specifically ask you, and this is a very controversial question because a lot of organizations are not able to put that ROI when it comes to content. It becomes one of those creative things that you're doing, and ROI becomes very difficult to map. So how has Adobe solved that problem of mapping an ROI to content marketing and all these content efforts that you're making?
Yeah. So one thing I would like to say, it becomes complex, it becomes controversial only when it's not done in the right way. If people are claiming things which are not necessarily true, then I think or they got it erroneously. I wouldn't say wantonly, but there could be a judgment error in the way they are looking at return on investment for a particular marketing activity, right? So I think you've got to get that right. Got to get that right. Be very transparent about, and no system is perfect. That's one thing to be learned. If we wait for that perfect system, wait for that perfect metric, perfect solution, we will never get to that measurement at all. Every measurement system can be, we can poke holes into it and make it better. What we have an opportunity is to make it better. And when you're trying to get things better, what you need is a feel about what you need to change. It might not always give you very, very sharp pointers. And that's why, you have a CMO who owns up that responsibility and uses a very, very important thing, which will always stay in vogue no matter what comes and goes, is judgment, right? A very strong sense of judgment about what he's or she's looking at in the marketplace. And combine it with not just the data, but also look at the qualitative aspects about whether these two are actually making sense. There is the dashboard, there's the data, and there is a qualitative narrative which comes. These two should make sense together. And finally, it should lead to the typical impact on the business metrics, which is increased revenues, increased profitability, increase category penetration, increase market share, increase share of wallet, and so on. So how we've done it at Adobe, I would say, is that we went on a journey of the data-driven operating model 3 years back, and we started to look at data at a granular level, saying how do we look at data that's coming from marketing? How are the leads coming in? How are we able to attribute these to certain marketing activities or non-marketing activities? What's the proportion? How is it all falling in place? And use analysis tools which were rudimentary at that time. But now over the last 3 years, I must say, we have evolved, and I can very safely say that we are one of the best in terms of the B2B DDOM adoption. One of the best, I qualify because in this field things are evolving so fast that 3 months and nothing is done, you are already a laggard, right? So there are companies that we always seek to learn And Natasha, in my career at Adobe, this is the best part. I always speak to marketers and always learning from them, because we talk only to marketers and CIOs, of course, but my discussions are predominantly with marketers, and it's lovely learning from them how they are doing it. So start on the journey. Don't wait for the perfect answer. If you start, you will get to somewhere. If you don't start and are waiting for all the 9 stars to be aligned in one row, it might take a long time for you to get started, is what I would say.
So if someone is getting started on this journey of integrating content into their marketing framework, what would your advice be? Because I'm hearing a lot of it, of course, being very data centered, right? I feel like what you're telling me is that is the backbone of your entire marketing play, and of course that also includes content. So what are those 2 3 things you would tell some maybe a smaller enterprise taking up, shaping their content strategy, shaping their marketing strategy, and fitting content into it? What would be your advice to them?
Yes, see, my advice to them would be that start with a definite end in mind, right? You got to know what you will get out of any exercise, right? So when for example, you are having a bunch of content streams, and you've got your audience, your target accounts, or target customers in mind with their personas. Now, once you have that, I think it's a good idea to find what does success look like in 6 months, 12 months, or rather, I would say 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months horizon. Where are we headed? What will people realistic get? Because there are 2 types of people in this world who don't believe in digital still. Um, that number is sharp depleting, I would say. But the other set of people are people who expect too much from digital, and that's wrong. I mean, there is every channel has its pluses and its constraints in many ways, and it's a lot dependent on how matured you are. This is not a switch that you can turn on and with a lot of unprepared approach, and then suddenly expect that tap will start showering in the dollars. That won't happen. It takes a work, body work to come to that level of preparedness, which is very crucial. So I think setting that picture of success in 30, 60, 90 time frame, maybe spread over the next 2 years, is very important. But at the same time, there has to be checkpoints. As I said, at this time, think of what have we delivered, where are we heading, what are we on track, what are we behind, right? Number one. Number two, start with what you have. Don't always say that till I buy this great tool, or till I buy this huge humongous amount of data, or till I'm able to integrate all the data that I have in a company, I will not start. I think it's never going to happen. So start with what you have. Be aware of what you're putting into the data bin, so that you know how, when you extract, what are the factors that you have to apply in your mind. So let me give you an example. Let's say you've got certain returns of your marketing investment from television, and that's overwhelming number. And what you got from, say, your website is not that interesting or low. You should know that the data input has been like that, so therefore they have to be given the due weighted average. It does not mean that your website is any less effective. It's just that you made a very conscious decision, right? And the third thing is, pick up one area and show an impact. That's very important, because see, we often ignore that organizations are also human beings, right? If I look at an entire company, so it behaves very much like one single human being. And like all endeavors that we get into, we need confidence. And for an organization to get confident that, look, whatever I'm doing is right, I'm on the right path, and if I continue, I will see success. You need to blow back that quick wins into the team and say, this is what we started, and this is how far we've come. We would have liked to be ahead, but this is where we are. So I think the organization is looking for very, very concrete outcomes, however big, small. Every CEO, every CFO is very smart. That's why he's a CEO or a CFO, to be honest, right? And while they may set expectations which are high, internally they know what to expect on the ground. Most of them are smart to make an estimate, and you will always find your support. Where you will not find support is when we are not able to project the outcomes that we have gained in such a small time.
I think that's an excellent little framework to operate within. I think, I mean, no interview would be complete if, a question about COVID isn't in it at this point of time. So, what I'd want to ask you is, do you think that COVID-19 has put a spotlight on content in a way like, like never before? And have you, personally felt a difference here? And are there any learnings that you would, that you can share with us with regard to this strange time period that we have gone through over the last 1.5 years?
Yeah, absolutely. I think content, especially digital content, has grown leaps and bounds. Largely because other forms of communication have not been there. So, for example, let us say you are a financial institution or a retailer, right? Whatever you did on point of purchase, everything point of sale is completely gone. You don't have those alternatives available. Television did not work as well because nobody watches television other than the IPL and the other huge properties that exist. Television production has been hit quite a bit. So, and OTT today does not lend itself to advertising as such, though there are some of them who thrive on that kind of advertising, right? So the opportunities that we have come down, which is why I think what we're seeing is a lot of focus on digital content being there. You can see a very big swing. There's absolutely no doubt, and people want to get it right, and they have taken digital very seriously because they know that this can be, their weapon and a big differentiator when it comes to the customers. Again, you've got to be smart. You got to know, the whole thing about data, right? So they call it BC and AC, which is before Corona and after Corona, right? So the data that you had before that is useful. It's still going to give you a lot of insights. But those patterns of purchase are not going to repeat after Corona, right? So when you said that, for example, people will buy a lot of consumer durables, which are relevant to the summer months. That did not happen this year because we were struck by the second wave very unexpectedly. And that would have, buying a refrigerator at that time would be the last thing on people's mind. So a lot of these patterns have got disrupted, and people will have to be very agile to identify the opportunities that they need to that are emerging very fast. Let me give you an example. An insurance company suddenly realizes that the very young people are buying life insurance. That was not the trend earlier. Now, what does it mean for content? Is that if there are younger people buying, the type of content, the type of channel that they want, and the type of experience that they want is going to be very different, right? They want to buy an insurance, like they say, they sign up for an OTT, right? This is the famous thinking which is there about liquid expectations. It's called liquid expectation, where things move from one channel to the other channel, but the expectation of the customer remain the same, right? This is their expectation not just from corporates, but also from government on the services that are there. So the experience wants to have on let's say an ICICI app is the same as what it will be if you think about the Arogya Setu app, which is meant for vaccination. So that has put a lot of emphasis on the fact that people will have to look at it, look at content, look at the channel, and tailor it that much faster. So content creation will have to be much more agile, at least in some more time when the patterns are better understood, and look at what kind of content is being sent out to whom. Now, the negative fallout of COVID, there are plenty of them, of course. Many have been unfortunate victims, and many people have been unwell. They continue to have challenges, and so on and so forth. Several families, several plans have got thoroughly disrupted. Economy world over has taken a hit. All this aside, there's one more challenge that COVID has actually given, which is the fact that whatever are the traditional channels, you will not be able to develop that content anymore in those channels. And the fact that whatever you had as a rickety digital marketing plan is not going to work. right? It's got to be strong, it's got to be robust, because unfortunately, it looks like it's going to take a few more months and probably more, at least a year, for this COVID to sort of settle down into manageable levels. So the future is never a recreation of the past. And we always try to do that, which can have its own follies.
You've spoken a lot about channel as an important, key aspect to marketing. So I want to ask you, it's like a chicken and egg thing. Does content depend on the channel, or does the channel depend on the content? What comes first?
I'm very biased. It's content, right? I think if you have great content, you find its way, right? That's what explains things like viral videos, word of mouth, all these things. This is where, especially in a B2B scenario, that's what is going to make an impact, right? So we ought to be very cognizant of that, in this world, it has to be content first. Because the flip side of this is that if the content is not right, and let's say you got your channel right, you are still giving mediocre content over the best channels in the world. So finally, what people remember is the content, and your call to action is always based on the content. And it's not to say that you can bundle up your channel strategy. It's not one or the other. But to me, I would like to believe that let's start with the content.
So my final question, Sundar, we spoke about the evolution of digital and content. So the past, we spoke about the present with COVID, everything that's happening. So finally, I would love your insights on what is the future of digital and content looking like for you.
I think it's we are on a very, very exciting journey, not just for us, but for our customers and our partners and our employees and everybody. We just got started, I would say. There are lots of new things which are coming our way in terms of the real-time CDP that we have, and also things like the Adobe Experience platform. All these are all aimed at something that we wanted to get a view of much earlier, which is a completely 360-degree view of the consumer, right? I think for the first time we have something which is very exciting, and also the products which are getting introduced, which help each of the products that we have now have are appearing in new improved versions. Also, I think the other area which is going to be very, very critical is e-commerce and our commerce platform. Everybody, that's a big shift that we are seeing, that very, very traditional fellas are looking to develop their own e-commerce platform, because I think there's a feeling that the long-term game is really having a platform of your own and not directed to popular e-commerce sites. You got to build it yourself. With that comes great data and insights into how your consumers are buying, which will be completely lost if you don't have a strong commerce platform. So as I think about it, and let me go back to the first question that you asked about how has been my transition coming from in the great organization that I worked with earlier. If I want to say, if we have to come back and say that okay, there is going to be great marketing that's going to come out in the future. The future is going to be a lot dependent on the customer experience management that we are able to provide to our customers going forward. So I can only say we just got started with us. Got a long way to go, and this is a very interesting journey ahead of all of us.
So the customer is going to be at the center even more, and the new customer who is also so evolved and so well informed, I would say, they are at the center. So the challenge becomes multifold to satisfy that customer, and that's what I'm hearing from this conversation today, that's what we are moving towards.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Well summarized, I would say.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sundar. That was a great conversation with a lot of tidbits here and there. I think I'll have to go back to this video and definitely hear it all over again. So many learnings. Thank you so much for making the time to do this for us.
Thanks, Natasha. Thanks so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.